President Cyril Ramaphosa will tomorrow preside over the official handover ceremony of the fifth and final report of the State Capture Commission. Later this evening, Ramaphosa will receive the electronic copy from Commission Chair Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. Zondo will join the President at the handover ceremony at the Union Buildings in Pretoria tomorrow evening. The final installment of the report is expected to include findings of probes into the SABC, PRASA and the Estina scandal, among others. It's been 4 years since the establishment of the commission, with 3 years of oral submissions. All right, now let's get the very latest from SAMKELE MASEKO, our reporter who is following this handover process. SAMKELE, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I know you're standing outside the SABC building. Of course, the SABC will also form part and parcel of the fifth and final installment of this report. What else will be contained, SAMKELE, in this report?
In essence, the final installment of the state capture report, which is in essence the entire bundle, will be handed over to President Cyril Ramaphosa tomorrow afternoon at the Union Buildings by the chairperson of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, that is the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, whom will deliver that report to the President. We do know that there have been delays in the submission of this final installment of the report. We do know that it contains matters relating to the South African Broadcasting Corporation, the SABC. We also do know it will have the final installment and have aspects of it looking into the Estina dairy farm project, which involves the suspended Secretary General of the ANC, Ace Magashule, whom was then the Premier of the Free State Province. This report, and particularly Estina, has involved the Gupta brothers and the Gupta family, whom have been arrested out in Dubai, and the extradition processes for them to return to South Africa are underway by the Department of Justice and Correctional Services within the country, led by Minister Ronald Lamula. We also do know that issues relating to the State Security Agency, SSA, particularly involving those slush funds which were being used willy-nilly and nobody was accounting on them, which also involves the role of a former Director General of that particular Department of State Security Agency, Arthur Fraser, who has since laid a criminal complaint against President Cyril Ramaphosa. That will also be contained and will further sharpen the contradictions between President Cyril Ramaphosa and Mr. Arthur Fraser, the former spy boss in the country, has laid those criminal charges of abduction and also torturing individuals whom led that heist or particular burglary at the president's home, where millions of dollars were allegedly stolen, which were stuffed in the furniture of the president out in the Phala Phala farm in Bela Bela, Limpopo.
And of course, SAMKELE, as people obviously look at this report, they will, as you rightfully say, be very mindful of the timing of Arthur Fraser coming out with some of these allegations, and one then wonders, you know, if there's merit to those questions that they have, and of course, if he himself was positioning himself in a certain way. You know, what are some of, you know, the political analysts saying in terms of just what will be contained in as far as the state security, you know, agency report in this state capture report will contain in terms of just the timing of the allegations that he made against President Cyril Ramaphosa. Of course, these allegations are very serious, and of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa has said very little in terms of, you know, what exactly was contained at his home at the time that the robbery occurred.
Well, starting on the issue of the state capture report, which the president will receive an electronic copy of the final bundle this afternoon or this evening from the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. You'd remember that this has been a 3-year-long investigation and commission by the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, which has recommended criminal prosecution for a number of individuals within the business space, within the former heads of state-owned enterprises, whether you go to PRASA, whether you go to power utility Eskom, and how it is the singular most threat to the South African economy, which is Eskom, and how it was allegedly run down on issues of state capture, corruption involving the Gupta family. You also go to how your Transnets have also been embroiled in issues of state capture and corruption, PRASA, Denel, your South African Airways, and the role of the Gupta family in the South African government, and how they were basically using state entities of state-owned enterprises, provinces, as their own piggy bank. You go to the issues pertaining to the Estina dairy farm project, which essentially robbed the people of Vrede of that particular agricultural dairy project, which was meant to alleviate poverty, inequality within that specific area. So it tells you of the various issues that have brought in, and you go to issues as pertaining to the asbestos project. You saw the testimony of businessman Edwin Sodi and the linkages of politicians receiving monies from these business people. You go to the issues of how politicians were captured by these various entities whom they were doing bidding for in order for them to get contracts within government. So these are some of the issues that will certainly come out of this state capture project and this state capture report, which will be delivered to the president. You just go to the birthday of former President Mbeki yesterday evening, of his 80th birthday, the message of President Cyril Ramaphosa saying is going to hit harder on those whom have been embroiled in the capturing of the state in the lost 9 years, in the words of former Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, when it comes to issues of state capture and corruption. So in essence, it will contain issues of how Hlaudi Motsoeneng, in his era as the Chief Operations Officer, COO of the South African Broadcasting Corporation, the relationship of the SABC and the Gupta brothers, particularly when you go to that series that they used to have on Morning Live on the breakfast, which pertained to the relationship of the SABC and ANN7, and the New Age breakfast, which used to be broadcast in collaboration with the South African Broadcasting Corporation, and how that came about, and what the SABC used to benefit from that particular relationship with the New Age. So it's going to be a detailed report of the breakdown of the procurement processes within the SABC, the procurement processes within the South African State Security Agency, which President Cyril Ramaphosa has pretty much talked about since his election as ANC president in 2017 at the Nasrec conference, and subsequently as the head of state, where he has said that he wants to clean up the State Security Agency, which pretty much saw the shifting and the moving of Arthur Fraser from that particular department and moving him to the Department of Correctional Services within the country, and how the President Ramaphosa has essentially said that the state security funds, the slush fund, were being used and abused by ANC leaders in order to create parallel structures, and also within the intelligence world in the country, and also to fund factional battles within the governing party.
SAMKELE, as we conclude this interview, we know that this fifth installment of this report was late. There are some concerns of the implications that may have in terms of, prosecutorial and law enforcement services that need to follow and processes. The President will receive it electronically today, as we've said, and of course tomorrow he'll then have it received formally and make pronouncements there. Talk to us about the process thereafter. The President will obviously have to review the report and the findings of the report, and then have to go to Parliament.
In essence, the President has spoken in Parliament on this matter. He did call a sitting and asked the officials of the National Assembly to call a joint sitting of both houses to speak about the state capture reports that were coming in saying that the government, the executive, will only speak thoroughly and present a clear program of action of the implementation of the recommendations of the State Capture Commission report once the President and the executive has received the entire full bundle of the state capture report. That is happening tomorrow. The President will then have to go back to the presiding officers of the National Assembly to call another joint sitting where he will present a clear program of action of the implementation of what government will do to ensure that state capture never happens again, and what the government has within its processes to discipline those whom have been fingered in wrongdoing within the state capture report, if people have to be disciplined, have to be dismissed, have to be taken to DCs, the president will then have to provide a clear program of action for every department, every state-owned enterprises that is implicated, and there are recommendations and findings on those particular departments. You'd also remember that the president had said that law enforcement agencies must continue with their investigations of the reports that have been submitted. If a report says Brian Molefe, Jimmy Kama, they must be prosecuted and they must be investigated and prosecuted. If it goes further to say Machela Koko, if it goes further to say Zizi Goto, Gwede Mantashe, the law enforcement agencies, the Hawks, the National Prosecuting Authority, must continue doing the work led by Shamila Patoy as the NDDP within the National Director of Public Prosecutions within the country. And also remember that there is that directorate which was led by Inacrania, which was tasked as / the new Scorpions, which was literally having a seat in every commission, in every sitting of every person who came to testify at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. We are yet to see any of those prosecutions. We do know that companies like McKinsey, like EOH, they have given guarantees that the proceeds that they received through state capture and corruption, they will bring back all of those monies that they benefited from during that era. But we have not yet seen successful prosecutions of those within the public space, within government, bureaucrats, and also the corruptees, which are the business people and the business entities as well. We've seen how it has had ripple effect and crippled the financial sector institutions like KPMG and their role within state capture within the country, and how they no longer able to have the fully fledged office and enterprise that they used to be within South Africa. And those whom have been fired, whom were involved within corruption when it came to that financial auditing company KPMG.
Some valid points there, SAMKELE. Thank you so much for that. Let's leave it here for now. Of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa will tomorrow be presiding over the official handover ceremony of the 5th and final